actually the first presentation that introduces iMarine. So my goal is to give you a very, very brief overview of iMarine and also to introduce the context for the presentation, the more detailed presentation that will follow mine. So let me start from, let's say, the beginning, which is actually the objective of the project. So the grand objective of the project is to launch an initiative for establishing and operating a data infrastructure in support of the implementation of the principle of the ecosystem approach to fishery management and conservation of marine living resources. So actually the idea is to create an instrument that can facilitate the work of those that are implementing the approach in order to result in, let's say, sustainable use of marine resources. So that's why we are looking at both the aspect of supporting those that are working in the context of the exploitation of the fishery resources and on the other hand to the conservation of these resources. Now, this project has been funded under, by the European Commission, under the G-Connect, in particular under the E-Infrastructure Unit. So, as Mark already mentioned, the goal of this unit is to start up and create and make operational infrastructure. So the focus is not on how this infrastructure can be used, so in order to address the challenges, but more on creating the instrument itself that facilitate those that are working for implementing the challenges. So the focus is to create an infrastructure which is solid, which is of good quality, and help really in addressing the needs. So you can understand that this is a big challenge that cannot be covered in the 2 years' time of a project. So usually when you create an infrastructure, it takes some time. So you start with a pilot, and then you see if it works, and then you consolidate what you have done and so on until you make it operational and sustainable. So what happened to us is that we have been actually creating what you will see today over the time. So we started in 2004, so almost 10 years ago, with a project which was called Diligent, which was a testbed project. And then we have been good and lucky because we have been able to have other projects that have helped us to continue the work that we have been doing. In consolidated, so what we have done is that we have learned what we were doing, we have re-implemented what we are doing, we have consolidated and so on. So until what you see today. So now in this process, what we have done is that we have created this infrastructure. You will see that the system that is behind is a complex system, made a lot of components. So not all of these components are, let's say, specific for a marine, but it offers a number of functionality that can also be used to support cases that are not necessarily the iMarine specific one. So, for example, we have services for managing tabular data. So this is not something that is specific of a marine, but it can also be used in other contexts. And in particular, we have already exploited the same infrastructure, for example, in a project that is just finished called EU-Brazil Open Bio, whose aim was a collaboration between Brazil and Europe for the creation of an infrastructure supporting biodiversity scientists, open access infrastructure, so with open access data, infrastructure supporting biodiversity scientists working on aspects related to the flora. So it's not only the marine science, but also, for example, in this case, flora. We are participating in another project which is called ENVRI, which is a cluster of ESPRI projects related to the environment. And also in this case, we are exploiting the result of the infrastructure that is behind also iMarine. So this is to say that there is also the possibility of using what you have done in other contexts. So let me come back to the ecosystem approach. So implementing the ecosystem approach, everyone knows that is very complex. And let me highlight two aspects why it's so complex. First of all, it's complex because it requires the collaboration of a lot of different actors that comes from different domains. So it's not possible, and these actors are not used to work together. They're used to work with different kind of data. They to work with different facilities, and they have their own standard. So let's say convincing these people and enabling them to work together is already in itself a challenge. And then the collaboration has to occur at different level. So you need collaboration from different, let's say, stakeholders, type of stakeholders. You need a collaboration which is must be at local level, national, regional, international level. So this is there is a large variety of collaboration and complex collaboration. The other point is that if you want to actually address what you need to have a lot of knowledge. You need to have available a lot of knowledge. So there is a need of producing the knowledge. Knowledge is a key point. But this knowledge is not a domain knowledge. It's a knowledge, again, that has to be produced by looking at the data that are produced in very different contexts. So there is in different domains, in different contexts, and there is a huge amount of data that need actually to be made available. And this data then need to be processed in order to generate the knowledge. So we need to have a data mining algorithm, analysis and processing algorithm that work on this shared data. And there is not only so, there is a problem that this tool has also to be shared across different people. And there is also the problem that often processing this data is requires actually intense processing. So you also need to have at your disposal the capabilities, the process capabilities, in order to generate the knowledge that you need. So these are key points. So what we actually have tried to do in iMarine is to offer something to address these issues, these challenges. And actually, the contribution is double, I think, because first of all, what we have done, we have started connecting people. So people from different domains in the context of iMarine have been starting working together. So this is, we have created, like what we are trying to do today, a community of people that comes from different domains and they started to work together, share their vocabularies, share their tools, share their standards, and working together. So we have already a community. And of course, the other part has been for us to enhance the infrastructure that we had already and operate this infrastructure with the right quality level. So let me start from the first point, which is this community. So in the context of the project, what we decide to do is to set up what we call the iMarine board. So this is a board composed by representatives of different organizations that comes from different domains. And this has been key for us because these are the ones that has completely driven our work. So we started with this, connecting these people. What happened is that by organizing events like this one, there were other organizations that were interested in the work that we are doing. And so we have created what is now called the extended iMarine board, where other organizations are participating. So there is this process of we started with a core number of representative organizations, but then this is enlarging. So this And this is part of our achievements. The other part is, of course, the infrastructure. So, but what is for us an infrastructure? So, a very, let's say, basic definition is that it is an electronic platform operated by a responsible entity which is offering an open set of basic enabling facility as a service. So you might be familiar with this expression as a service because everyone now is speaking about the cloud. No? So the idea is that the infrastructure offer to, let's say, those that want to create specific applications as a service, some facilities. So instead, those that implement an application, instead of implementing completely the application themselves, what they can do is that they can outsource to the infrastructure part of the processing that is needed in order to implement the application, and let the infrastructure run the service, offer the right quality of service, maintain the service. All this is not taken on board by those that develop the application. They outsource it to someone else. Now, the key point is here that the aim actually of the infrastructure is of a good infrastructure. So what the infrastructure is used for is actually for a number of aspects. First of all, an infrastructure is introduced because it is expected to provide an economy of scale. So what I was telling you before, each one that need to develop an application, instead of reduplicating each time into implementing each time what is needed, it's use the infrastructure. So the infrastructure run part of implement, maintain, make available the computing capabilities for a number of actors that need to implement their own application. So there is a point which is related to economy of scale. The infrastructure enables those that implement the application to reduce the time to market. So instead of implementing, you have to implement, usually they have to implement much less. And offer an established quality of service. And also it's so important because when you have an infrastructure, what happens is that it's much easier that if someone new start actually making an application, it tends to adopt the standards and to harmonize their choices with the choices that are taken by the infrastructure. But of course, creating an infrastructure that offers this is not obvious. So it also requires a lot of work. And so it's a huge effort from the technologist, because if, for example, you create, I don't know, a service that has interfaces, very complicated interfaces, then you will not be able to reduce the time to market, because those that develop the application, we have to do a lot of effort. So if you create an infrastructure which is that in order to be operated is very complex, then of course the cost of the infrastructure is so high that there is no reduction of cost. So that's I think that in this project this has been the work of the technologists. So having good technologies and having a good group of technologies is key in achieving, because you have to create a good product. And the technologists in this project have had work hard to, for example, to guarantee that the cost of operation and maintenance is low. They work a lot in order to create an infrastructure which is open and flexible, because if you have another need, then you cannot actually re-implement everything. So you have to have an infrastructure that accommodates easily your requirements. We had to work hard to support, for example, the standard. because this is key for example, reducing the time for someone to use the infrastructure and so on. So what I want to say is that behind the construction of a data infrastructure, you need to have a very good team, ICT team. But this is not enough, because a key other point, when I gave you the definition of infrastructure, what I told you is we are offering a set of basic services, but selecting which are the basic services cannot be done by the ICT partners by themselves. So it's important to have also the members of the community that are telling you which are the right services. Because if you have the wrong services, then you don't implement, for example, the economy of scale. You don't achieve reduce the time to market, because you have implemented something that is not really useful for the community. And in our case, what we also had, and was key for us, was the role of what we call mediators. So in order to ICT people and members of the community of practice sometimes are not able to talk themselves so easily. So we had in the project also what we call mediators, that are people that actually knows about the technology, but also knows about the requirements of the user community. So I think that I'm telling you this because I'm saying that implementing a data infrastructure is not an easy task, which requires, again, the cross-domain collaboration among different expertise. So what kind of data infrastructure have we built? So you will see that there are now many data infrastructures that are emerging. And so the term data infrastructure is not enough to tell you actually the semantic of what you have in front of you. So there are many data infrastructure that have also been mentioned this morning that are trying to aggregate the content and actually support the discovery of data, and in some cases allow you to access the data. So our instead aim was, as I told you at the beginning, facilitate the generation of knowledge across domain knowledge and support the collaboration. So for us, so having only the access to the data was not enough. So that's why we have created an infrastructure that also support a large number of other phases. So that goes from integration, enrichment, and transformation of the data that have been accessed, to supporting the modeling, analysis, and processing of different form, to then when you have produced something that is the result, for example, of analysis, you can store, you can publish, you can visualize, you can share with others. Until the last point, that is supporting the cooperation among different players working for achieving a common goal. So you will see in the presentation that that will follow, that all the ingredients are present. And then how the services that we have developed can be consumed. So this can be consumed programmatically, meaning that you can create, for example, your own portal by accessing programmatically what is offered by the infrastructure, or you can be supported by the infrastructure itself. So the infrastructure has a notion that we call the virtual research environment. So the idea is that through the infrastructure, so the infrastructure facilitates you in creating what is a web-based working environment, which actually is tailored, contain whatever is needed for a group of people to perform their work. So imagine that there are a group of people that has a specific objective. They want to have their own tool and have their own environment. So what is the infrastructure does? It allows you to create this environment this is an environment where you have everything you need, and the person that work with you are allowed to access that environment. And you can restrict only to those persons the access to this environment. And this is virtual because the underlying resources, the underlying services are actually what is provided by the infrastructure. So there is this notion of the same resources that can be used in different, or the same tool or the same service that is used in different environments. And you will see, actually, example of them in the demo and presentation that will follow. So this concludes my introductory presentation. And now we will go in more detail with the next presentation, which will be given by Dr. Pasquale Pagano, that actually will go in more details, presenting in detail, more in detail, the services and the characteristics of the infrastructure. Thank you.